Hi, you're listening to Bite-Sized Book Reviews, and the book I've just finished reading is called Razzmatazz by Christopher Moore. The story is set in late 1940s San Francisco and basically gives you a glimpse into the lives of a really colorful cast of characters. It's written in both first and third person and jumps around depending on whose perspective it's following at the time. And instead of having a strong central plot line, it's composed of a lot of plot lines woven together. And that's why I said it's a little bit more like just a glimpse into these people's lives. So an example of some of what's going on. You have a bartender called Sammy who near the beginning of the story is recruited by his friend Mushu's uncle Ho to help him find the statue of a dragon that he last saw more than 40 years ago. You have Mushu's girlfriend who is trying to start a driving school despite the fact that she actually does not know how to drive. There's a taxi driver who's afraid of driving and actually often has his customers do the driving for him, and he's trying to do or think of something to do about the husband of the woman he's been having an affair with, since her husband is not a very nice man. There's also been a series of murders in the city where someone has been targeting the city's drag kings, and Sammy's friend thinks that she might be next, so eventually recruits him to hopefully catch the killer before something happens to her. The story is composed of a lot of silly, weird, and or funny instances kind of put together. Like some things kind of amuse me and some things that I'm not really sure what to make of. For instance, you've got Uncle Ho's history woven in with the story about what's happening in the present day, and he appears to be able to talk to animals. I'm not sure if he's imagining or if it's real, like it seems to be real. But there's this one scene where, so he's kind of inept at almost everything that people try to get him to do, partly because he's too nice a person. But he was working at a restaurant and he let all the live turtles they had in their crates out, and the chef was super angry because he was like, yeah, like they keep them in the crates because they want them to stay fresh until they cook them. And Ho says that he let them out because the turtles told him they didn't like to be in the crates, and the chef asked him, well, like then do the turtles like to be cooked, because that's kind of what they're what's destined to happen to them. And Ho says, oh well, he doesn't know because turtles don't talk about the future. Like, actually makes a lot of sense, but it's also slightly silly and just kind of amusing that way and a little bit strange. And that's pretty characteristic of a lot of things that happen in this story. Like, it's a little chaotic, but not necessarily in a bad way. Heads up that there is a great deal of swearing and a lot of dirty humor. So I think if you're not in the mood for that kind of thing, then this might not be a great choice. But I think overall I kind of liked how I guess all the main characters in this story felt like good, ordinary people, like people who do a lot of little thoughtful things or like small kindnesses for other people, even when you don't like them and even when you don't have to. So just an example, I guess, for Sammy, like near the beginning of the story, like there's this little kid that he often looks after and he keeps like food in his apartment for him, even though the kid is kind of nasty, like really rude, and often like tries to shoot him with arrows and stuff, like just not a very nice little kid. And it notes how he sometimes thinks about talking to the kid's mother, but then he thinks about the fact that she wasn't able to marry the kid's father before he went off to war and he was killed in the war. But since they weren't married, she also doesn't get any support for herself or the kid and ends up having to go into prostitution and stuff. And he thinks about all this and then doesn't talk to her and continues to look after the kid. There's these little kindnesses, I guess, that people do for each other that make these people the kind of people that are actually kind of interesting to spend some time with. So yeah, overall, I actually pretty much enjoyed reading this story.